Okay, here we go again. So this time we're gonna talk about the thief. Sure, the thief can steal anything, at least according to himself. But then again, if you go ahead and look at it in the perspective of, I don't know, a cat. Hello, Claude. It might say otherwise. So, what is the story of the thief? Let's start with the summary. Here we go. There's this guy named Jenius, Jen for short, at the beginning of the novel, and he's a thief, and then he decided to, in a very, very dumb move, decided to brag to everyone in every bar that he could go to, and after drinking a swig of alcohol in every bar, says, I can steal anyone, anything, everything, anything, as long as someone was listening to him. And by happy mistake, one of the people he told and bragged to that he said, I can steal anything, was no other than the Magus, basically the literate advisor of the king's agent. And that in turn led to Eugenides. Okay, I'll just call him Jen from now on. Put into prison, into the heaviest chains of all. In fact, he had chains around his waist, he had chains around his waist, he had chains around his wrist, he had chains around his ankles, he had chains around his chest when he was asleep, and sometimes he had chains as if he was in a hog tie, except it was chains, not rope. And then we end up to the fact that Jen is trying to figure out how to escape. He figured out how to, take off the wrists, but he couldn't figure out how to, take off everything else without the guards finding out in, less than a minute. Because, it makes quick clink clink sounds. He had to snap the wrist cuffs back on really quickly when the guards came back. So it kind of made it painful. And his wrists were starting to go numb. So he's like, yeah, you know what? I won't do this until, I figure something out. And he was thinking of a plan one day when suddenly guards came in and locked his chains except for the waist and the essential ones, and then threw him to the Magus' room. And he was too tired, and he was already in mud and grit, and the Magus stand up and too tired and okay, the chair will have to be cleaned. And the next up they have a long discussion of why he's right here, and he says, will you do it? Sure. Why, what am I depends on what I'm stealing. You'll find out along the way. And okay, I'm not going unless I'm told what I'm stealing. No. You're coming or not? Fine, I'm coming. So yeah, that happens. And then they go ahead with these three other characters. Paul, Sophos, and Ambriadus, I believe. Yeah, Ambriadus. They go on a little long journey, and then somehow their food sometimes disappears, and they're blame the thief for it, Jen for it, and they're keep whipping him and stuff, and that kind of slowed down their journey a bit. Next up, they seem to go ahead to the place where they're supposed to steal it. Turns out what Jen was supposed to steal it was a stone, except this was no ordinary stone. In fact, they had their own religion. It was based on the Greek religions, I believe, but in this case, it was this guy Hephaestus. Instead of Hephaestus, it's Hephaestia, the goddess of fire and hearth and everything. And then we end up with the earth, which basically is the mother, basically Gaia, and then the sky, which is basically Uranus. Except in this case, instead of Uranus, it's just the whole sky, and then the earth just created a lake so that the sky god could see what he looked like. He had thunderbolts and everything, and then they had a few sons, and they gave them all immortality. Earth decided to have a baby with a human, and then she gave him lots of gifts. But then when she was trying to give him the gift of immortality, it was hey, the sky god hey, do not give him. He's a plain old human. And turns out that guy's the god of the thieves, god of thieves, because he was told by Earth and by Hephaestia hey, I gave my daughter the power to shake and make earthquakes, just so that she could be the ruler and so that she can keep our power in check. But the sky god also promised to give her his thunderbolts, but he hadn't. So, go ahead, steal the thunderbolts, And she told him every necessary information that he needed. Like, okay, he goes, like, and seduces some people when he goes ahead to the mountains. He leaves his thunderbolts behind. And so, using that knowledge, he takes the thunderbolts away, while the sky god is, like, seducing some women. And then when at night, he, like, thought he misplaced them, went ahead to his daughter, and went ahead to, like, his half-son, technically, the god of seas, and says, "Where is it?" "Well, strangely, I know you have." "I don't have it at all." And the sky god knew that he was telling the truth, so like, "Okay, where is it then? And I'll spare you." "With Hephaestia." Like, no, the sky god was like. And then Hephaestia, and then he went to Hephaestia, and then saw that the bolts were there, and said, "Thank you for your cooperation, father. Now I am the ruler of all the gods." Like, yeah. And then we end up with the fact that that's probably not even the end of the story. So that happens with that background knowledge in mind. They go ahead and steal a stone. That stone is claimed to give the god of the seas his immortality, because, like, he stole the thunderbolts and blinded the sky god, and then the sky god was like, "I hate you." Because, like, turns out the god of seas' brother decided to, like, trick him because he was kind of jealous and accidentally invoked his death. And the sky god is like, "Fine, I'll give you the gift of immortality as long as you put this thing out." So that happens. Gets the immortality, but it's also kind of bitter. The water of immortality is kind of bitter because he put some bitter root in it. The sky god put some bitter root in it, and it's like, "I made your life bitter as you've ruined mine." So yeah. Now they go ahead to steal the stone, which turns out isn't just a stone, it's like a stone enveloping a sapphire. They go ahead, Eugenides, after like 3 days of worth of tries, goes ahead, finally finds this thing, goes to the Magus, she gives him the it, and then a clash between Aetolians, because they were not Aetolians and they were an enemy land. Like, they ended up with the fact that they had to go ahead in a big skirmish, but before that, Jen cut a hole through it, where the stone was supposed to be. Amyphis' stone was supposed to be, and then that turns out, and then like hid it in his hair while he was like tying it up, and that ended up in the fact after the battle, which resulted in them winning. It made them think that, hey, we lost the stone. Oh, it's okay. We can just make a copy. We're the only ones who've ever seen it before. Like, Jen was kind of horrified and like kind of insulted because it's like as if his work was all thrown away. And then later, after progressing the story, and then Ambiadus, turns out, was a spy for the Aetolians. He would rather be a wealthy spy than a poor broke magus. And he's shoved down the cliff by Paul after Jen decides to like go away, and he grabs Ambiadus' sword while some Aetolians found him, and he starts slicing it away. He fought all them all well, good, and then he faltered his fight when he realized he killed one of them. You know, like, he did not want to be a soldier. His Fadat wanted him to be so, but he didn't want to be the soldier because it involved killing. And he's like, "Hey, I don't want to kill that." And he ripped up his stuff, and then from then on, he said, "I will no longer ever take this sword out like with my hand unless my life is in danger." And he thought his life was in danger, so that kind of works out. But then this kind of got honorably retired. And then the Magus is kind of dumbfounded by Jen, because turns out Jen had the stone all along in his hairnet, and then the stone, he gave it to the Queen of Aetolia to show that she's the rightful Queen of Aetolia, and then she just like, "Hey, let's go! I'm now the official queen." She does a random ceremony, lets the Magus and Sophos, turns out he's the heir to the Saunus king. Anyways, and then they have like the Saunus and the Edises and the Aetolians. They go ahead and do a treaty, and then they send Sophos back to Edis, the king of Saunus. And then the thief becomes the queen's thief, as he's now serving the queen as his official thief, basically the secret just the personal Gestapo of the queen, except in this case it's just a one-man Gestapo. And then we end up with the fact that they destroyed the stone in a volcano, and then it's gone. The story ended. Jen, now he decides he like only wants to be heard and called as Eugenides, and then Eugenides goes ahead, writes a book about his adventures, and then gives a copy to the queen and sends one to the Magus. That's it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode of Canton Shown. I might read the sequels to this book, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. So until next time, Shnan out. Peace. Da 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 da